Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Hey Crown Crew, just a quick heads up. If you come across any channel posting my content, please let me know right away. I've managed to report and shut down 3 imposter channels in the past months alone that were literally reposting my videos complete with my face and voice. And I only knew thanks to some amazing regulars who reported it in the comments or through email. Your support is invaluable, so if you spot anything suspicious, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you. I've always been the responsible one in my family. With my dad gone and my mom working 2 jobs, I took on a lot of household duties from a young age. One of those was taking care of our old car, a beaten-up sedan that had seen better days but was our lifeline. Last week I noticed the car was making weird noises. I knew we couldn't afford any major repairs, but I also couldn't risk it breaking down on my mom during her night shift. So I decided to take it to the dealership and dropped it off on Monday morning. The guy at the service desk assured me they'd call within a couple of days. By Friday, I hadn't heard anything. I was getting worried, so I decided to give them a ring. I called the dealership and spoke with the receptionist. I asked about the status of my car, mentioning that I had dropped it off on Monday. The receptionist asked for my name and the make of my vehicle, which I provided. To my shock, she informed me that they had no record of receiving my car. My heart sank. I insisted that I had dropped it off myself on Monday morning, but the receptionist maintained that there was no record in their system. She even asked if I was sure I had brought it to their location. Feeling my blood pressure rising, I immediately called for a ride-sharing service and headed to the dealership. The whole way there, I was a bundle of nerves. I couldn't understand how they could lose a whole car. Upon arriving at the dealership, I went straight to the service desk. A man wearing a manager's badge approached me, asking if he could help. I explained the situation about my missing car. The manager checked their system and, to my disbelief, told me they had no record of my vehicle. He even suggested that I might be confused about where I had left it. This was the last straw. I lost my temper, accusing them of losing my car and trying to gaslight me. The manager tried to calm me down, but I was having none of it. I declared my intention to file a police report, accusing the dealership of effectively stealing my car off their lot. I also threatened to contact their corporate office about their inability to properly store and track vehicles. The manager's demeanor changed drastically. He started stammering and trying to backpedal, but I was already on my way out, determined to file a police report. Outside the dealership, I called the police non-emergency number and reported the situation, emphasizing the dealership's negligence. Then I contacted the corporate office of the dealership chain, explaining the situation and mentioning the police report I was filing. While waiting on a bench outside, I received a call from the dealership. The manager claimed they had located my vehicle, attributing the issue to a mix-up in their system where my car was logged under a different name. He said the service was almost complete. I expressed my skepticism about the convenient timing and insisted on going through with a police report and corporate complaint. The manager tried to appease me by offering to waive all service charges and provide a voucher for my next visit. I demanded more, a full refund, a written apology, and a rental car for the inconvenience. After a brief pause, the manager agreed to my terms and asked when I could come in to discuss the details. I told him I'd be there in an hour, adding a sarcastic remark about hoping they wouldn't lose me in their system this time. An hour later, I returned to the dealership. The manager, visibly nervous, ushered me into his office where the necessary paperwork and rental car keys were waiting. As I drove away in the rental car, I realized that sometimes a little pressure is all it takes to make things right. I've been working at the local grocery store for about 5 years now, ever since I graduated high school. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and lets me take a few community college classes on the side. Last week, my manager asked if I'd be willing to help out with a new initiative. The store was partnering with a local veterans organization to offer free grocery delivery to disabled vets in the area. Of course, I said yes. My grandfather was a veteran, and I've always had a soft spot for those who served. So there I was on a sunny Saturday afternoon helping two older gentlemen in wheelchairs with their shopping. They were both Vietnam vets, and despite their physical challenges, they had great attitudes and an awesome sense of humor. I asked the veterans what was next on their shopping list. The first veteran jokingly mentioned needing prunes, making a light-hearted comment about staying regular. The second veteran playfully disagreed, expressing his preference for ice cream instead. We all shared a laugh at their banter. As I was enjoying their company and feeling good about helping out, I heard a loud, shrill voice behind me. A middle-aged woman in designer clothes, with a distinctive haircut, was impatiently demanding assistance. She complained about waiting for 10 minutes and tapped her foot in annoyance. I apologized to the woman and explained that I was currently assisting other customers. I asked if there was something specific she needed help with. She tersely replied that she needed someone to reach the organic, gluten-free, non-GMO quinoa on the top shelf. She also criticized the store for not having step stools available for customers. I assured her that I'd be happy to help her as soon as I finished with my current customers, estimating it would take only a few minutes. The woman became indignant, questioning if I knew who she was. She boasted about being a platinum member of the store's loyalty program and claimed to spend thousands of dollars there every month. Trying to remain calm and professional, I apologized for the inconvenience but explained that I was assisting disabled veterans as part of a special program. I reiterated that I'd help her as soon as I could. The woman dismissed the importance of the veterans' needs, stating that their service was their choice. She complained about having a tennis match soon and needing to prepare her kale smoothie. At this point, the two veterans looked uncomfortable, and other customers started to notice the commotion. One of the veterans offered to help by suggesting they could grab the quinoa for the woman. However, she rudely refused, insisting that it was the staff's job to assist her. Suddenly, the situation escalated as the woman shoved me hard. I stumbled backward, nearly knocking over one of the veterans' wheelchairs. I protested against her physical aggression, but she claimed she could do whatever she wanted as a paying customer. Just as I was about to call for security, a tall man in casual clothes approached us. He had been browsing nearby and had witnessed the entire scene. The man inquired if there was a problem, and the woman immediately complained about my alleged refusal to help her and prioritizing the veterans over a loyal customer. The man then revealed himself as an off-duty sheriff by showing his badge. He informed the woman that he had witnessed her assault on me, which was a criminal offense. The woman's demeanor changed drastically as she realized the gravity of the situation. She attempted to justify her actions by claiming I had been rude, but the sheriff dismissed her excuses. The sheriff explained that he had seen her deliberately shove me for doing my job in helping disabled veterans. He informed her that he would need to take her with him to file a report. The woman protested, invoking her perceived importance, but the sheriff remained firm, stating that she was about to be charged with assault. As the sheriff led the woman away, she ranted about potential lawsuits and vowed never to shop at the store again. One of the veterans lightheartedly commented on the unexpected backup I had received. I expressed my relief that they were okay, to which the other veteran assured me they had been through worse experiences. He then suggested we finish up the shopping trip, jokingly adding that we all deserved some ice cream after the incident. I later heard that Karen was also banned from the store. Sometimes karma works in mysterious ways, or in this case, through an off-duty sheriff at the right place and the right time. I've always been a social butterfly. Ever since I was little, I loved making friends and talking to everyone. It didn't matter if they were older or younger, boys or girls, I just enjoyed connecting with people. My parents always said I had a gift for making others feel comfortable, and I guess that's why I never had trouble fitting in at school. When I started 6th grade, I was excited about all the new friends I'd make. Our teacher had this system where she'd assign our seats, usually pairing boys with girls, to keep us from chatting too much during class. I didn't mind though, it was a chance to get to know different classmates. At the beginning of the year I got paired with this boy. Let's just call him Grumpy. At first I thought he was okay, maybe a bit quiet, but I figured he'd warm up eventually. For some reason, Grumpy seemed to hate me from day one. I tried being friendly, asking about his hobbies or just making small talk, but he'd either ignore me or give me these annoyed looks. I couldn't figure out what his problem was. One day, about a month into the school year, things took a turn for the worse. I asked Grumpy if he understood the math homework, mentioning that I was stuck on question 3. He rudely told me to figure it out myself, rolling his eyes. When I tried to suggest we could work on it together, he suddenly hit my arm hard. I exclaimed in pain and asked why he did that. His only response was to tell me to leave him alone. I was hurt and confused. I'd never done anything to this guy, and here he was, hitting me for no reason. After that, I tried to keep my distance, but it didn't matter. He'd find excuses to shove me or hit me when the teacher wasn't looking. I thought about telling the teacher, but I was worried it would only make things worse. What if he got angrier and found sneakier ways to bully me? So I kept quiet and tried to avoid him as much as possible. This went on for weeks. I dreaded going to class knowing I'd have to sit next to him. My grades started slipping because I couldn't concentrate. My other friends noticed something was wrong, but I was too embarrassed to tell them what was happening. Then, one day after lunch, I had an idea. Our homeroom teacher was sitting at her desk, keeping an eye on the class while we waited for our next subject teacher. I decided it was time to put an end to this. I turned to Grumpy and started talking about the science experiment we did the day before. He glared at me and told me to shut up. When I continued talking about how cool it was that the chemicals changed color, he swung his fist and hit me in the shoulder. This time I was ready and let out a loud yelp. The teacher heard the commotion and came over to investigate. She saw Grumpy hit me and immediately pulled him out of his seat. When she demanded to know if he had hit me, Grumpy tried to defend himself by saying I was annoying him. The teacher scolded him, saying that was no excuse for violence. It turned out that Grumpy had already been warned twice before for bad behavior. This was his third strike. The teacher announced that he was suspended for a week and that she would be calling his parents right away. Grumpy's face went pale and he looked at me with pure hatred, but I was just relieved that it was finally over. When Grumpy came back from his suspension, things were different. The teacher had moved him to a special desk right in front of her. He had to sit there for every class and even during lunch. No more buddying up with his friends or causing trouble. For the rest of the year, I got to enjoy my classes in peace. I made even more friends, and my grades went back up. Sometimes I'd catch Grumpy glaring at me from his isolated desk, but I just ignored him. He couldn't hurt me anymore. Looking back, I wish I'd spoken up sooner. I learned that it's important to stand up for yourself and not let bullies push you around. But I also learned the power of patience and timing. By waiting for the right moment, I not only got Grumpy to stop bullying me, but I also made sure he couldn't bother anyone else for the rest of the year. I later heard that Grumpy had to go to counseling and anger management classes. Part of me hopes he learned his lesson and became a better person. But another part of me is just glad I never had to deal with him again after that year. I'm a 17-year-old high school student, and until last weekend I'd never been in a car accident. My parents got me my first car when I turned 16. Nothing fancy, just a used sedan that gets me from point A to point B. I've always been careful on the road, following the rules and keeping my eyes on the traffic. That Saturday started like any other. I was heading to my part-time job at the local bookstore, and it was a beautiful day, sunny with clear skies. I was driving down Main Street, my mind occupied with thoughts about the new shipment of books we were expecting. That's when it happened. Out of nowhere, a car came speeding through a red light at the intersection. I slammed on my brakes, but it was too late. The sound of metal crunching and glass shattering filled the air. My airbag deployed, and for a moment, I couldn't see anything. When I came to my senses, I realized my phone was automatically dialing 911. My hands were shaking as I tried to get out of the car. That's when I saw her, the other driver. She looked young, maybe a couple of years older than me. She rushed over, and before I could say anything, she grabbed my phone right out of my hand. I exclaimed in surprise, asking her what she was doing. She responded that we didn't need to call anyone and that nobody had to admit fault. She hung up the call and shoved the phone back into my hands. I was too shocked to react. My mind was spinning trying to process what had just happened. I hesitantly suggested that we should report the accident. She dismissed my concern, saying it wasn't a big deal and that we should just exchange information and be on our way. I didn't know what to do. This was my first accident, and I was completely overwhelmed. My parents had always taught me to be honest and follow the rules, but here I was, frozen in indecision. Just then, another car pulled over. An older man got out and approached us. He asked if everyone was okay and informed us that he had seen what happened and called the police. The other driver's face paled. She quickly turned to me and urged me not to mention the phone incident, saying it would just complicate things. Before I could respond, a police car arrived at the scene. The officer got out and started asking questions. I was still in shock and I didn't mention what had happened with my phone. The other driver gave her statement, conveniently leaving out how she'd interfered with my 911 call. After everything was sorted out and my parents came to pick me up, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd done something wrong by not speaking up. That night, I finally told my mom what had really happened. My mom asked why I hadn't said something earlier. I explained that I was scared and confused, having never been in a situation like that before. She expressed understanding but emphasized that what the other driver did was wrong and that we needed to report it. The next day, my mom helped me call the non-emergency police line to add the information to the report. We also informed our insurance company about what had happened. A few days later, we got a call from the police. Apparently, they had found some other irregularities in the other driver's story, and our additional information had been the final piece they needed. They were pressing charges against her for interfering with an emergency call and providing false information to the police. Part of me was glad that the truth had come out, but another part felt bad for potentially getting the other driver in serious trouble. My mom reassured me that I'd done the right thing. She explained that sometimes doing the right thing is hard, but it's important. As the legal process unfolded, I learned that the other driver had a history of reckless driving and had been trying to avoid another mark on her record. Her attempt to cover up the accident ended up landing her in much more trouble than if she'd just been honest from the start. This whole experience taught me a lot. I realized how important it is to stay calm in stressful situations and to always tell the truth, even when it's scary. I also learned that it's okay to speak up when something doesn't feel right. Now, whenever I get behind the wheel, I'm even more cautious than before. I know that accidents can happen in the blink of an eye and it's crucial to be prepared. I keep my phone charged and easily accessible, and I've made sure I know exactly what to do if I ever find myself in a similar situation again. I hope that by sharing my story, others might learn from my experience. Don't let anyone pressure you into doing something that doesn't feel right, especially in an emergency situation. Your safety and the truth are always more important than trying to avoid trouble. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.